Good evening, deep travelers. It's Ethan. Have you ever felt the crushing weight of guilt? In the darkest moments, when light seems out of reach, our minds can play cruel tricks on us. Tonight, I take you on a journey where darkness isn't just outside, but also within. Breathe deeply, for each breath could be your last. Let me guide you through a tale where reality and memories blur, where every heartbeat sounds like a distant echo. Darkness was all-encompassing, oppressive. David was terrified. Around him, a deathly silence prevailed, broken only by the muffled sound of his own breathing. The air, thick, carried a scent of fresh earth and aged wood. Every inhale was a struggle, every exhale a silent prayer. David had been buried alive. Memories were hazy, as if wrapped in a thick fog. How did he get here? Why? He tried to calm himself, to gather his thoughts. He remembered the pain, the loss, Sarah, his beautiful Sarah. She had left too soon, taken by a tragic accident. David had been devastated, unable to find meaning in life without her. He remembered his last visit to the cemetery. He had come to pay his respects to Sarah, seeking some solace, some comfort. He remembered the smell of freshly cut grass, the melodious chirping of birds, the gentle whisper of the wind through the trees. But there was something else, a discreet presence, a shadow, the gravedigger. A strange man with dark, deep eyes that seemed to hide many secrets. They had exchanged a few words, and David had felt a strange sensation, as if he was drawn to this man, as if there was something he needed to know. David tried to move, to push the coffin lid, but his efforts were in vain. Claustrophobia began to set in, every heartbeat echoing like a drum in his head. Tears streamed down his cheeks as he thought of all he had lost. He felt alone, lost, doomed. But he knew he had to find a way out of this wooden prison. He closed his eyes, praying for a miracle, for a second chance. And as he was consumed by despair, he heard a sound, a muffled, distant noise. The pain in his lungs was unbearable, but it was the pain in his heart that was most tearing. Every breath reminded him of his dire situation, but every memory of Sarah reminded him of what he had lost, the will to live. He remembered their first meeting. It was a summer day in a local park. Sarah was reading a book, sitting on a bench, her golden hair shining in the sun. David had been immediately drawn to her smile, to the softness of her voice. They had talked for hours, sharing laughs, dreams, hopes.
Sarah, why did you leave me? Why am I here alone in this darkness?
Another memory surfaced, more painful this one, the night of the accident. They were returning from an evening with friends. David remembered the deafening noise, the heat of the flames, Sarah's screams. He had tried to save her, but she was already gone. Tears flowed again as he remembered the pain, the guilt. It should have been him. He should have protected her. These thoughts looped in his mind, tormenting him, consuming him. He also remembered the days that followed. The condolences, the funeral, the void left by Sarah's absence. He felt lost, disconnected from the world. Everything seemed pointless, meaningless. And then there had been that visit to the cemetery. He had come to say goodbye to Sarah, to seek some peace, some comfort. But instead, he had found the gravedigger, this strange man with dark eyes.
What did he do to me? Why am I here?
He tried to gather his thoughts, to remember what had happened after meeting the gravedigger. But everything was blurry, indistinct, as if he had been drugged or hypnotized. He remembered the gravedigger's words, his soft, raspy voice.
You want to join her, don't you?
Panic took over again. He had to find a way out, to find the light, to find life. But how? The cemetery was silent, save for the melancholic song of nocturnal birds and the rustling of leaves. David remembered the feel of gravel under his feet, the scent of freshly cut grass, the weight of sadness on his shoulders. He had walked aimlessly, lost in thought, until he came near an old wooden shed. That's where he had first met the gravedigger. The man was digging a grave, his lean and hunched silhouette contrasting with the strength with which he wielded the shovel. He had stopped upon seeing David, his dark, penetrating eyes staring at the young man with unsettling intensity.
You seem lost, sir. Are you looking for someone?
My wife, Sarah. She's buried here.
The gravedigger had nodded, an enigmatic smile forming on his lips.
Death is a strange thing, isn't it? It takes away those we love, but it also offers opportunities.
Opportunities? Are you out of your mind?
The gravedigger had put down his shovel and approached David, his soft, raspy voice creating an eerily intimate atmosphere.
There are ways to communicate with those who have passed to the other side. Ways to feel them close to us again, even if just for a brief moment.
David had shivered, unease taking over.
What are you talking about?
Anything is possible if you're willing to pay the price.
David remembered the dizziness that had taken over him then. Intrigued by this strange character, he had followed the gravedigger, unaware of the consequences. Night had fallen when David had followed the gravedigger to a small shack set back from the cemetery. The place exuded an aura of age and mystery, every nook seeming to hide forgotten secrets. Inside, the room was dimly lit by candles, casting dancing shadows on the walls. At the center was a table on which various items were laid out, an old grimoire, shining crystals, and a small vial containing a dark liquid.
Sit, David, and let's celebrate together.
David then remembered that tragic night, the accident, the blinding headlights, the screeching tires, the violent impact. Sarah beside him, unresponsive. David realized the gravedigger was likely the cause of this nightmare. But what was his true goal? Was he truly able to communicate with the dead, or was he just a madman drawn to others' pain? David knew he had to find answers, and fast. For time was running out, and every second in that coffin brought him closer to the end.
I must confront this past. I can't let this guilt consume me.
Drawing from his last reserves of strength, David began to pound on the coffin lid. Each blow was a cry of defiance, and as he felt his strength waning, a miracle occurred. The coffin suddenly gave way, and David was freed, gulping down fresh air. He was outside, in the cemetery, under the starry sky. Before him stood the gravedigger, a look of surprise and anger on his face.
Impossible. How did you? Did you think you could escape the abyss, David?
Without warning, the gravedigger raised his shovel and struck David with brutal force. David collapsed, vision blurring, breath cut short. As darkness took him, he heard the gravedigger's sinister laughter echoing in the cemetery. The gravedigger, with cold efficiency, dug a grave right next to Sarah's. And so, in the cemetery's silence, without a backward glance, the gravedigger walked away, disappearing into the cemetery's darkness, leaving behind two souls united in death. Dear listeners, our nocturnal journey has reminded us of life's fragility and the power of memories. David, trapped in darkness, confronted his regrets and most painful memories. The gravedigger reminds us that sometimes it's impossible to escape our own demons. But perhaps the true lesson here is that, even in death, love endures. And with that, dear listeners, we conclude our journey for today. Until our next descent into the depths, keep an open mind and a curious heart. See you soon in the abyss.